ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Welcome into ATL Day Ones. It is a good old Friday. Not Good Friday, but good old Friday. We want to thank you for making ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra your first listen today. And remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure you go into that little review section and say, ATL Day Ones is the best podcast I've ever heard in my life. And guess what? You won't be lying, because we don't like liars. This is how we get down. We be giving y'all the good stuff each and every day, Monday through Friday. That's just how we are right here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. But coming up today, have we figured out what John Collins' true value is? We'll tell you who has had the biggest impact for the Atlanta Braves. And last but not least, in the Florida culture, are the Atlanta Dream living the dream? We'll talk about all that on today's show. But first, we got to jump into Atlanta Hawks. Falcons. The Atlanta Hawks general manager Landry Fields spoke to the Hawks flagship station yesterday, and he had some very interesting comments to Tenitra, Batiste. And one of the first things that stood out to me was when he was asked about Kevin Durant.
Yes.
He said, everybody is interested, and everybody is trying to figure out a package to bring Mr. the Slim Reaper down to the city.
Yes. I love it, because that's what you want to hear, right? And so I'll just a little snippet of a quote from him. He said, every team's, like you said, in the hunt for Kevin Durant, a guy like that, an all-time great, you have to definitely sit there and figure out how you can get your name in the conversation to acquire a player like that. And that's where I got excited, because he said, to me, that says that they're still out there going after big fish. So the Hawks are still in it. They're still feeling like confident that they're a part of the discussion. And as a Hawks fan, that's all you can ask for. All you can ask for is that the Hawks don't rest on their laurels. Even now, yes, we have DeJounte Murray. Yes, you've got pieces that they put in place, especially in the backup point guard space.
Like playing defense.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you've got, and speaking of defense, those pieces that they added in the backcourt, really at point guard, but really they can cover the 1 or the 2 spot. Right. He's done a nice job of getting some pieces, but I love that he said, in essence, we are still out there. We're still out there looking aggressively, going in, and we're putting our name in the hat, and let's just see what happens. And I love the fact that he said that. He was like, and we'll just see how it goes. But we definitely, and he used the word definitely, are a part of, that's conversation, just like every other team. And I was like, bet. Hawks fans, you should be excited that there is still an aggressive mood, an aggressive momentum, an aggressive attitude about how the Hawks are approaching free agency.
No doubt about it. And, speaking of getting better and trying to get into a better situation so they can be contenders in the Eastern Conference, John Collins' name is a name who's been thrown around seemingly for like the past 2.5, maybe 3 years. Some thought that was going to go down. Those rumors will go away once they re-signed him, but they still there, T. And one of the things that, that kind of came to my mind when I started thinking about, like, okay, you have all of these rumors, right? We know some of them probably have some there are some legs to some of them, right? And he's still on this roster.
Yeah.
And he has his money. But for Landry Fields mentioned yesterday that he is picking up they've been answering phone calls, meaning one can take that as, you know what? We're not necessarily trying to trade him, but we're trying to, we definitely will take your phone call, give us an offer that can knock our socks off.
Right.
And the one thing that I've been thinking about, and I think that I really feel like I've come to the conclusion that, I don't want to speak for you, I've come to the conclusion that the Hawks are really starting to see what John Collins' true value is. And I think some of that, now, ego aside, that John Collins may realize that, hey, I'm in a good place. I'm making good money, and I don't want to go anywhere.
Exactly. And before I tell you my thoughts on where JC should or should not land, let me tell you about a place that you should land, and that is betonline.net. That's your number one source for all your betting needs, your sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including Major League Baseball information, over unders. You might want to see what's the over under that JC stays or JC goes. This is the place where you will find that information. And really, it's sporting wagering information across the board, live betting, esports, scores, all of it. So that's your best spot for getting information in one place. They even have podcasts and news throughout the season that can help you out. So it's the fastest and easiest way to check in online, betonline.net, on MMA, boxing, golf, so even your niche sports, they cover that. So head to that website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. And don't forget, it's betonline.net. And speaking of that, Jarvis, we are talking about betting on whether or not John Collins will be in a Hawks uniform this fall or not. And to me, it's still a toss up. But I think you make some good points about what is most of the focus has been on what the Hawks will do and what they have done, which is, as Landry Fields said, entertain calls, looking for the offer that is appropriate, because just like last season, when it was Travis Schlenk making the decision, they never got an offer that they felt comfortable with to let
Yep.
him go. So the better
Mm-hmm.
thing to do was retain him. And this season is, to me, is still a 50-50 here as well. Are they
Right.
going to get a partner who they can or decide not to retain him and release him, or are they going to retain him? The question becomes, what about John Collins? How does he feel now, right?
Yeah.
Because if they can't trade me because they can't find a partner that will give them what they want, maybe that also speaks to my worth. And maybe I should be out there. Maybe I should be grateful about, how they think about it. I think they've been upfront with him
Yeah.
about what's been
For
going
sure.
on. So people who say, okay, well, if he stays, what is that relationship going to look like? You know what? There was some dusting ups going on last season,
Mm-hmm.
allegedly, and the season before that, between Trae Young and John Collins. Amazingly, they got past it and put some quality basketball out there, right? So I
Right.
think if he's retained, when you have a Nate McMillan and you brought in veterans to really kind of stabilize your locker room, I think it'll be fine. I don't think it's irreparable damage by any stretch of the imagination. But if a report that we heard from our friend Chris Kirschner over at The Athletic says that John Collins is out the door, if his camp is saying that he's done here, I think that there is definitely a market for his talent. So I'm still on the fence in terms of where they land.
And you know what? And I think that, you make a great point is that, and I think that all depends on what teams are willing to offer versus
Yes.
what the Hawks want to, do in order to get in return for him. Because
Yeah.
I think that if they get an offer that they can't refuse, I
Hmm.
think he's out the door. But if they aren't getting what they feel his value is or what his true value is, he'll be here. And I think they have all the tools necessary to be able to repair that relationship, and they can sell him on, hey, you want to be here, we
Yeah.
got you got your bread, hey, come on, let's go ahead and win some games, man. Let's get back to this Eastern Conference Finals and prove to all those folks out there what your true value is. So
Hmm.
I think it's a win-win for the Hawks, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a kind of a tough situation to be in from John Collins on the outside looking in, but this is the professional basketball world
Yeah.
that we live in, and this is
Hmm.
exactly what it is. Now,
And one more
speaking
thing,
of,
Jarvis, I wanted to share
mhm,
just before, I know we got to move on, but not to talk about it, but just to give Landry Fields just one more shout out, because
mhm,
when he was asked a point blank question on the flagship station by our own Locked On Sports Atlanta colleague, also Mark Zeno, the question was about Trae Young. Is
mhm,
anybody going to talk to him, or has anyone talked to him about the possibility of being a better defender? And Landry Fields was very direct about that and said, hey, yeah, we've had some conversation with him. The coaches have, front office, and Trae understands the importance of evolving his game. And you and I have talked about where that evolution needs to be, that you can't
right,
just sit on 3.7 rebounds a game or sit on less than a steal, averaging a steal a game, and you can't sit on 4 turnovers a game, because that lends itself to you also having to get back on defense and then putting your team in a position to have to, basically get back in transition quickly. I love what Landry Fields said about him, but he also said Trey's a competitor, just like I've been saying too, in terms of him taking the onus, and he's even been tweeting about it, Jarvis, taking that onus on himself to say, hey, you watch me work, watch me get better, so we'll be watching.
No doubt about it. Trey is definitely a chip on the shoulder type guy. And when there's an issue or when there's been, things about his game that a lot of people have talked about him improving on, he's gone in the offseason and gotten better. He's worked on those things because he gets it. He understands it. And, and Trey wants to be great at the end of the day. So it's nothing more you can ask for as your lead superstar on the squad. Speaking of superstars, the Falcons essentially lost theirs, Matt Ryan. He was probably the closest one you can say that, was a superstar or was the face of the franchise. But I think CBS Sports headquarters has put a little bit too much value in that, T, because they put out a ranking of the rosters. Right. And I'm up here looking at my eyes tell me or saying to me that they got them ranked 32nd. Good Lord.
And how many teams are there in the league, Jarvis?
It's 32. What is going on? Like the first team that come to mind, I was like, immediately comes to mind. The New York Jets. How are they worse than the New York Jets? And the Jets are 20th. They're 20th. I'm just like, oh my God, y'all putting so much stock in the draft class. Like just look at the construction of the roster and what they put out on the field last year, and then kind of give a little bump on what the rookies may do. But the Jets, the Giants, quarterbacks. T, please help me out. Am I off base here?
No, it was mind-blowing because I also even said when I look at, the bottom of the stack, if you will, and I'm going, okay, you got the Lions, and you got the, Giants and the Bears, and I'm like, well,
oh my,
we were Mr. We were Mr. Steal Bear. The Falcons were Mr. Steal Bear. So you're saying that we stole the wrong people? I'm trying to understand the, so and listen, there are some rationales that make a little bit of sense. Don't get me wrong.
Of course,
because the Texans do have a better O-line, so maybe you're giving them credit for whoever's under center that he'll get the proper protection. Okay, fine. And you might look at the Bears and you may say, well, hey, at a minimum, their quarterback is better than currently what we know of because we have not seen what Desmond Ridder can do. Right. So, okay, I'm looking kind of down the line, but that 29, that's where I started really scratching my head. The Giants, the Giants. And so if your rationale is still about, the talent, Daniel Jones, still an unproven commodity. Saquon Barkley can't stay healthy. Kenny Golladay,
can't stay healthy.
Right. He can't stay healthy. And who are you going to throw to? And I know because I had him in fantasy football and he tortured me. Anyway, and then you've got the Lions. Again, you're looking at their roster. And don't get me wrong. I understand you're giving maybe Jared Goff and a DeAndre Swift some credit. But I feel like, Jarvis, and maybe it's just you and me, but I feel like that ranking, at least give them 28. I don't know if you put them past the Jaguars.
Yeah. It's in the bottom rung of it, but, the worst.
Yeah. And can I just say this too, Jarvis? It doesn't match up, speaking of betonline.net that we talked about, but it doesn't match up with what BetOnline and many other pundits have said about where the Falcons will land as far as over-under with their wins.
Yes.
So I'm like, they don't.
And Vegas is almost never wrong.
Exactly. So
they almost always win.
They don't land at 32 in Vegas. So what's your rationale? But I couldn't quite see a straight line across what the writer said. And even Jarvis, when we look at how he teed up the article, it really didn't give us his criteria. So I said it's very hard for us to kind of assess how he got there because we still don't know how he got there.
Yeah, we still don't know how they got there. We know that the Braves did not get to this sweep last night. They lose 3-2 against the St. Louis Cardinals. But there was something else that was on display last night that I feel like we have to talk about. We'll answer the big old question: who had the biggest impact as a rookie for the Atlanta Braves? We'll discuss all of that next, right here on ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and T, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta.